Justin, there are so many things that sports fans have to go through just to be able to watch a game. They have to endure this streaming war, and you got Netflix and Prime struggling for getting exclusive game rights to games and all that stuff. You have cable rights battles between like Comcast and regional sports networks, and then you have the archaic blackout rule. But the one thing that is the biggest pain in the butt in terms of being a sports fan absolutely has to be ESPN. But before we get into all of that, welcome to LND Sports. I am Dan, and if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, if you like this, make sure that you hit the like button and also leave a comment and make sure you subscribe to the Loud and Drunk podcast. Justin, how are you?
I'm good, Dan. How are you? I am Justin, by the way, and yes, I am wearing my sunglasses today. I thought it would be a good idea. It's funny, yep. But I mean, who actually wears sunglasses when they do podcasts?
I know a few people.
So I thought it would be a good idea, but here we are, and I'm not going to wear them anymore. So,
who does that?
Oh, you know who actually does that? Who does stuff like that? Somebody who's sitting at the bar inside wearing sunglasses. It's me.
All right, let's get into this. ESPN has been the bane of my existence in terms of being a sports fan, but I know that you have some beef with ESPN too. So I figured we can tee off on a few things that ESPN has done, particularly recently, that has bugged both of us. I think we'll start off with the fact that ESPN will drop Major League Baseball at the end of this season. They've had coverage of Major League Baseball. Sunday Night Baseball has been like a staple of, the Major League Baseball calendar. They've had it since 1990.
Wow, didn't know it was that long.
So it's like Major League Baseball and the NHL were kind of like their staple back in the day. And what ended up happening was they had like a 7-year deal that was signed in 2021. And they opted out for the last 3 years, and it was a mutual, getting out of the agreement because ESPN didn't want to pay them as much as they were paying them, and it was $550 million per year.
I took a glance at your numbers you had over there before. Some of those numbers are insane, honestly.
But the thing that drives me nuts out of this too is that recently they re-upped their deal with the NBA, and they're going to pay the NBA $2.6 billion for a league where you can argue some of the numbers. This is the numbers that I found. Their audience is declining by 45%. So it kind of doesn't make sense to give that much money to one league that seems to be struggling for any sort of notoriety, any sort of attention, any sort of real audience and ratings, and then completely leave out another sport that pretty much has a monopoly on the summer. And I know you have a lot to say about, their treatment of Major League Baseball and all of that.
So ESPN with baseball is just ridiculous. So when you turn on ESPN and watch a game, you usually have Carl Ravitch, David Cohn, who was a really good pitcher. He pitched for the Mets, he pitched for the Yankees, I think the Royals. Great pitcher. Like I think he has like 20 strikeouts, like something like great pitcher.
Yeah.
But then you have Eduardo Perez, which I have a personal beef with this man. I mean, no, I guess not personally, but every time I turn on the television and he's on, he sounds like he's got a frog in his throat. Like he should not be on television. Like I just can't understand what the fuck he says. So I have a problem with him. Other things with ESPN baseball, I just feel like they cater to whoever the hot team is. So they're always looking to beef up, obviously the let's just say Shohei Ohtani or any other big name player, and I just don't like that. Like I'm all about watching my teams play on the networks that I like, and that's Gary, Keith, and Ron with little Steve Gelbs thrown in, and that's what makes what I like, on the lower channels, I guess, MSG, SNY, but ESPN, they just go overboard and they fucking put in all this hoopla, which is just stupid bullshit. I'm not sure what else to really say off the top of my head at the moment, but that's it for now.
I would agree with that. ESPN's commentators are,
Bogus.
bad. But I wanted to throw out some more before we dive more into that. I wanted to actually throw up, because I neglected earlier to give you the rest of the numbers, because I would actually like you to tee off a little bit on how much they pay other leagues and how much they pay, instead of paying for baseball, this is what they're paying for. Let's just find this real quick. All right. So we got the college football playoff, $1.3 billion. Everyone was bitching about, the ratings for the college football playoff. They're better than most NBA games, but that's still, a substantial amount. And it's less than the NBA. The NFL, ESPN usually has Monday Night Football. And it's usually like the ratings for that are not, they're not great, because they get like the worst games. I don't know how they've changed the structure of that, but usually it was Sunday Night Football that gets the best games for that weekend. And then like, it's kind of like slim pickings for Monday Night Football.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Saturdays. Go on.
And they're paying, I don't know if I said this before, $2.7 billion, which is just a little bit more than they're paying the NBA now. And then the WNBA, now the WNBA is going to be less than Major League Baseball, obviously. It doesn't have the same kind of notoriety or anything like that. But they're paying the WNBA with an 11-year deal, $200 million a year.
Wow.
And by the way, the WNBA has never turned a profit. It lost $40 to $50 million last season, and you're paying $200 million to them now.
I'm shocked at that, actually. With the all I hear is that the WNBA is growing with the rise of like many of their superstars.
Yeah, like Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. There's others, but yeah. But I'm shocked at that they're losing that much.
Oh, they've always lost money. They've never had a profitable season. They've been subsidized by the NBA. And that's also another reason we could probably tie that into why this is a bad investment. Like if the NBA is subsidizing a league that's never made a profit, that's bad business.
Yeah.
And then last, the NHL, now this is an unofficial number, but it's reportedly $400 million per year until 27-28. Now, I would actually kind of think if they're cutting Major League Baseball for having $550 million per season, and the NHL is only to 27-28, the NHL is next. Because remember, the ESPN does not have the greatest of relationships with the NHL. Because back in the day, right before, when they came back from the lockout that ended that entire season, ESPN really didn't want them. They had thrown games on ESPN2 for the longest time. They weren't playing highlights on SportsCenter.
They never do.
They never do now. And they have access, and they have like the whole freaking league. Like ESPN Disney bought ML BAMTech, which owned the digital rights. Like Major League Baseball technically owned the digital rights to the NHL for a certain amount of time, and then Disney bought those rights. So ESPN has the rights to like what we used to call NHL Center Ice, the entire out-of-market game package. If you like, the NHL would probably be better off if they tried to do something outside the box, but they're not going to. But yeah, I would look at ESPN potentially cutting the NHL because they spent this much money on the NBA, which is a bad investment. Like, you don't know what their audience is going to go through.
Well, let's just look about like right now. Right now, you have the NHL playoffs happening.
Yeah,
you are seeing some NHL games on ESPN right now, but it's because it's the playoffs. They I feel like they dig in whenever the getting's good. They bite onto it, and then they look like the heroes because they have the television. They have they have it on television for you to watch.
Yeah, they've had games on ESPN, ESPN2, ABC. So I'm not saying that they haven't been playing the games, but also I can tee you off on how bad the commentary is for those NHL games too.
7 weeks.
Oh my God in heaven. So they have one good. For the NHL, they have one good broadcasting team. That's I believe his name is Sean McDonough and Ray Ferraro. Ray Ferraro is great.
Ray Ferraro is really good.
But also he's like worked at TSN. Like he knows everything. Like he makes everybody look like you don't know shit about hockey. Like he can commentate on how good they were in juniors, how good they were in the World Junior Championship. Yeah. He knows everything practically about hockey, and like he was a pretty good player too.
Honestly,
so.
yeah, you just brought that up. So when I first watched him start doing commentary, I was like, that guy played hockey?
Yeah. He was on the Islanders. He was on the Rangers.
Yeah.
He was known as Chicken Parm by the guy I'm going to say I don't like, John Butchergrass. Gross, however you pronounce his name. I don't care because he pronounces college hockey. Him and Kevin Weeks were like the top team for the Frozen Four. So like you're watching like the national championship game.
Love that.
Between Western Michigan and who the heck did Boston University. And I have to listen to these guys the entire time just so I can enjoy some college hockey. And I will point out specifically the Connecticut, the UConn Penn State game. It's a great game. Penn State wins, and Kevin Weeks. I have a master's in sports journalism. I was taught the certain do's and don'ts about commentating on sports. One of the do's is shut your mouth when there's a moment.
Yeah, let it play out.
Yeah, let it play out. Let it breathe. Don't interject unless you have something great to say, which you usually don't. And Kevin Weeks never learned that, I think, because he would not shut the hell up. Like, I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm like, wow, what a great moment for Penn State. They went from a club-level team about 10 years ago or something like that, maybe 15 at this point.
Does he just yell, go?
No, he's just saying, like, what a moment for Penn State. Oh, they did this the first time they'll go to the Frozen Four in program history. In program history, if they've never gone.
As the replay's playing.
Yeah, as, like, they're celebrating, the crowd is going nuts. And I'm like, shut up. Shut the hell up. Like, I even had to text my brother and be like, wow, he really ruined this moment. And my brother was just like, I'm aware of the work of Kevin Weeks. Like, it's just it completely ruined the moment for me. And there wasn't really a good backup. Like, I know going back to the NHL.
I knew you didn't like him, but I didn't realize there was a hatred.
It was So I have this rule, and I can bring this up now. I have this rule: if there is a woman commentator, or if there's a commentator I don't like, then I mute it, and I'll just watch the game and maybe listen to like a concert or something like that, like a live album or just music in general, because you're gonna ruin the game. Like, I don't know exactly who the female commentator is that they're circling around on ESPN for the playoffs. I don't know if it's Leah Hextall or somebody else. If it's somebody else and they've played the game, like the women's version, I don't know why you're commentating on the NHL. Like, I don't understand. You didn't play in the NHL. You might have played it like for the United States Olympic team or the Canadian Olympic team, and yeah, those are the two best women's hockey teams. I understand why you would like commentate on women's hockey, but it's a massively different game. Like, women's hockey, there's no hitting. You have to wear like a full facial mask the entire time, like the cage. It's slower. And again, no hitting. And no one is shooting a slap shot as hard and as fast as somebody like Alex Ovechkin. Or back in the day, like Mike Green, who almost freaking castrated Patrick Thorson against the Philadelphia Flyers.
Well, maybe she knows how to shut her mouth whenever there's a moment.
Fair enough.
Ding.
But also at the same time, I just hear that and I'm just like, I'm done. I don't want to, like, I saw that during the Panthers Lightning series. And that was like, that's one of the best series.
I'm sorry to interrupt. All I keep thinking about is that hit that what's his face put on the Lightning, Matthew Tkachuk.
Matthew Tkachuk.
Man, he fucking put that guy in his ass. He really did.
But I was throwing on some of the games at the end, and like I had Montreal and Washington, and that had McDonough and Ray Ferraro. So I'm watching that. I'm like, oh, good. This is a good game to listen to. And then you have on the other one some dude, and then this girl. And they're just like, I can't listening to this game anymore. So I have to mute it. And then it's just like, it's not even worth watching at this point. I don't care that much to watch this game muted.
What do you think their back and forth banter's like? I'm just curious.
I have no idea. And also I know I'm coming off fairly like chauvinistic about this, But I also would say that I don't know why there are men commentators for women's sports. I don't even like the fact that there are men coaches for women's sports. I feel like it should be like women's sports are for women, and then we don't call them men's sports, but that's what they are. And it should be for men.
Honestly, I feel the same way. I don't remember the name of the coach for the UConn women's basketball team. Geo something.
Oh yeah. I know who you're talking about.
It's a great program. The guy's great at what he does.
Yeah.
He's been the coach there forever. But like, I just never understood why there was a male coach for a women's basketball team or whatever. I just never understood that. It was like I just never got it. Like I could get into logistics of that and how I think it's so weird, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, we gotta stay on topic here. We're trashing ESPN. That's another thing. While we're on the topic, though, I can watch literally any sport for the most part. I'm only really watching hockey, and they will not stop like throwing it in your face. Hey, there's a WNBA game that's going to be on Wednesday. Do you want to watch it? I'm watching the Frozen Four, and they're like, oh, you know what? You really should be watching instead women's college basketball because it's their NCAA tournament too. And I'm like, I'm watching hockey. Men's hockey. There's no cross section here of why you should be plugging this to me. There used to be a time where we're like, hey, you're watching hockey. You know, there's a hockey game on. So you're watching the Frozen Four. Well, tomorrow we've got an NHL game. That at least makes sense. In this particular situation, makes no freaking sense. So that's another thing that I don't really like about ESPN. They just hammer you with the thing that they'd rather you watch.
They're sticklers to really stick it. I don't like ESPN anymore. I'm gonna get rid of it. Honestly, I'm just tired of it.
Well, the issue with that though is it's like, so you're a baseball fan.
What do other people watch? I want to know. What do other people watch? Like I grew up watching SportsCenter and ESPN, and now I feel like SportsCenter freaking sucks.
Well, yeah,
ESPN sucks.
Yeah, SportsCenter they turned into a morning show. Yeah. And also going through all of the stuff for my my sports journalism degree, I know that there are. The prevailing idea, and that was 10 years ago, the prevailing idea was that nobody wants a full-blown highlight show anymore. And there was like, maybe I had one old school professor that was like, well, you know, that I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's just the way things are going. Just because like, oh, you can get the highlights on your phone. It's like, yeah, but I can get all the highlights here if you just do it right.
But even if it was a local broadcast, like, I don't know, does SportsCenter change for the entire nation, or is it just one show everyone watches? I don't know. Do you know how that works? Because I don't really know.
What do you mean?
Well, I guess you have SportsCenter AM. Like they have a SportsCenter AM in Los Angeles. Are we playing the same thing for the whole nation?
I mean, like, I'm not familiar with how, because they did bracket those sports centers off.
Yeah.
I know that they just did, like, I remember SportsCenter of how they did it back in the day when you had like Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann before he lost his damn mind. Mm-hmm. And you just had that particular recording of the SportsCenter, and then they would just repeat it until like noon. Yeah. I don't know.
It was at least an hour long, right?
I believe so. Yeah. I believe it was at least an hour.
Now they got it. It's a half an hour long. You got a marionette doll like as the anchor. Randy Scott, you weirdo, dude. Gary's on his partner, and you know what, Randy Scott. The reason why I feel like I don't like you that much is because you always got to say, we're all properly caffeinated as your slogan every morning, and I hate it. But anyway, the AM show, it's just so stupid. So they'll only pick the specific highlights for the day. It's usually LeBron James. There's never any hockey in there.
No.
And they'll play the same thing for how long is the show if it's a half an hour? Like literally what, 23 minutes because of commercials?
Yeah, 23
minutes of content, and then the half an hour kicks over, and then we're gonna play it again. But they got to play it with a different kind of zing to it.
Yeah,
like, oh, we're sitting over here now, and LeBron James and Brony and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I really wanted to get into because of doing like regular down to earth sports shows. They used to have really good ones that when I was a little kid, I would want to watch those shows on Sunday. Like they'd have Sunday Conversation, sports reporters behind the lines, I think it was called.
Oh yeah,
I think that one was with Bob Lee. NFL Countdown used to be fantastic.
Prime time.
Yeah, in prime time with Chris Berman and Tom Jackson.
That was great. 7 o'clock. It was on at 7 o'clock. They would do the entire breakdown of every single game in an hour.
Yeah, and the great thing about
Mike Allstott.
But like Chris Berman, as you're alluding to, would just make it fun, and Stuart Scott on SportsCenter would make it fun. And now it's just these like wooden Ken dolls that have no personality. Like, oh, I'm properly caffeinated. Like, I haven't watched SportsCenter in years, and just hearing you say that makes me want to like walk into the bay and not come back up.
Yeah, it's terrible. You did a great job by that, by the way.
And I want to roll into that, though, because instead of doing SportsCenter the way SportsCenter was always meant to be, with talented guys like Dan Patrick and back in the day Keith Olbermann and Stuart Scott.
As cool as the other side of the pillow, I had to put that out there because that dude ruled, and that's like one of the best quotes I've ever heard anybody say, and I was like, wow, that's so good.
And he used to do like for was it Mookie Blaylock? He'd be like Mookie.
Yeah.
So
he was so good. I mean, God rest his soul. He was really good dude.
But like they completely pissed away their talent. Like Dan Patrick is no longer there because they didn't want to pay for Dan Patrick because Dan Patrick was too good. Keith Olbermann left to go into politics. God rest the soul of his mind, because he lost it in that pursuit.
So just before they turned it into an AM show, they had two really good anchors. It was Neil Everett, and they had Stan Veray, I think you say his name. Those two like got me back into watching SportsCenter, and then like a year later, it was like, oh, look at this weird thing. The guy's standing instead of sitting down and having a big television behind him doing stats. Like, what am I watching? This guy's walking around. He's doing an interview. Like, what is this? This is a morning show.
Yeah, and it becomes unwatchable. And not only now is it's a morning show, but like they took the success that was PTI, pardon the interruption, and Around the Horn, those were shows that I was watching when I was a kid. Because I was a little older than being a kid. I was like a teenager because that's when they came on.
Around the Horn's getting canceled.
I know. Honestly, like it had been canceled for me like a long time ago because like it was kind of like a game, and it wanted to be like a fun version of the sports reporters, but the sports reporters back in its heyday would always be better because it was always like, first of all, it was hosted by John Saunders, who was incredibly great at his freaking job.
I don't think I ever saw it.
It was like a 9-10 a.m. ESPN show, and it was only on Sundays. I used to love it. I think that was one of the shows that made me want to get go into sports journalism, just because you had all these guys just from different newspapers, prominent newspapers. They'd be like the Boston Globe. I can't remember that old dude's freaking name. They get them all together, and then had discussions of the popular sports topics of the day. And it was hosted by John Saunders, who was great at just guiding the conversations and all that.
I can't picture John Saunders for some reason, but I'm sorry.
John Saunders did a lot of like if you ever watched hockey in like the 90s, early 2000s when ESPN still had it, he would host the intermission reports. If it was like on ABC or something like that, he was like one of their top guys in terms of doing that. He played for Western Michigan.
If I saw his face, I'd know exactly what you're talking about. I just can't, not ringing a bell at the moment.
So instead of a John Saunders and guys that were like really good at being talented, sports broadcasters, they've replaced these people with hapless, hot take shit merchants like Stephen A. Smith, who, and I don't have the tweet in front of me, but he had one of the worst takes for the recent market crash of Shedeur Sanders in the NFL draft, where he essentially accused the NFL of colluding to not draft Shedeur Sanders. What?
I think it's wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Where are we going with this? You know what I mean? Like, why?
They're colluding to not draft the guy. And I was like, and with Stephen A. Smith, there's always a little bit of like the race aspect in it. And like Skip Bayless, who's not with ESPN anymore, he's with Fox, flat out freaking said it. Then it's like, oh, not picking Shedeur Sanders was racist. This is also another part of the problem with ESPN, because they always want to make, instead of it being about the game, you want to make it political.
Well, there's a story here. That's why they're all shining on it right now. It's just silly.
And it's also at the same time too, like Mel Kiper, and good for, it wasn't Carl Ravitch, it was the other dude. He hosts freaking ESPN College Game Day. I should know. Reese, whatever. Oh, God,
one guy just retired. I know that, the old guy.
No. Hopefully it'll come to me. But he actually had to put him in his place. It's like, well, no. Like if he was acting inappropriately, and all these teams are like, well, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Or in this case, for Shedeur Sanders, which everyone who was crying racism or whatever seemed to freaking forget. Well, one, Cam Ward, who's a black man, was picked first overall.
He only visited one team, by the way.
Cam Ward?
Either one team or two teams. That's it. I just heard that today.
Well, he was the first overall. He was like the kind of the consensus first overall pick, and the Titans had the first overall pick and needed a quarterback, so that kind of makes sense. But with Shedeur, there's this thing, and comparing him to Colin Kaepernick is not a bad comparison. The colluding part is way off base, but comparing him to Colin Kaepernick is accurate because it's a part of the headache versus talent ratio. So when Colin Kaepernick was doing his whole thing, like kneeling for the national anthem and all this stuff, he was also not playing particularly great. Like the 49ers didn't have a great season, and they benched him to play Blaine Gabbert, of all people. And then when he opted out of his contract. People never bring up that he opted out of the contract.
He had a problem with Nike too, right? I think Nike cut him.
No, Nike signed him. Nike signed him to like a lot of money
because of what happened.
Because of what happened. And then going around being like, oh, well, no one will sign me. It's like, yeah. Have you not met a sports team in the history of sports? They don't, unless you are Tom Brady, Wayne Gretzky, like Michael Jordan. The headache is not worth the problem that you're going to bring into the locker room, because every reporter is going to circle around you like, what are you doing now? This, that, and the other thing. It's not worth it. And it's the same thing with Shedeur Sanders. And his talent, like at least Colin Kaepernick was somewhat proven in terms of like taking a team to the Super Bowl with the 49ers. Shedeur Sanders just showed up as if he was like God's gift to football, with his dad saying like, oh, well, I'm not going to let him go to the Browns, or I'm not going to let him go to this team or that team. And it's like, you went to Colorado, and you get to think that you get to just pick and choose where you're going in the NFL. And a lot of guys were saying, a lot of reports, a lot of like conjecture, whatever you want to frame it as, they were saying that he was like showing up to these meetings and like he was taking phone calls. He was just showing up like not dressed properly. He was getting upset if you showed him like a package of him screwing up and he didn't analyze what mistakes that he made. The inverse of what Cam Ward apparently was doing, where they showed him a package like, this is what went wrong on that play. This is what I should have done instead.
You do it better.
Yeah. It's instead of just looking at what might have, not even what might have happened, instead of just looking at all of those potential factors, Stephen A. Smith just went with racism. Collusion.
Yeah, and that's not cool, honestly. So I agree on some of those things with you, but I also disagree on some of those things with you, because I feel like Colin Kaepernick did his thing to what he thought was right, and that was his prerogative. Whatever he was standing up for, that was his thing. That's why he got ridiculed. Shedeur Sanders wasn't even, like you said, or you may or may not said, didn't even play in the NFL yet.
Yeah.
Thought his shit did not fucking stink. Also, he whenever he had a problem with anything, everyone would be like, "You don't know who my dad is?" There's all those things. Ego. He's trying to be his dad. He wasn't even on the level. Like, he's not even he's just not even there.
Yeah, he was just showing up expecting everybody to like, oh, well, you're great. I'll just draft you. The comparison that I was making, like, I'm leaving the politics of what Kaepernick did aside.
Right.
And him, like, the politics of it and, like, being ridiculed and him being a news story and, like, everybody, like, it is a headache.
Yeah.
I am trying to build a successful football team here, and you're not talented enough to overcome this headache that you're going to bring into my locker room. That's the point that I'm making.
Yeah, no, I understand. It takes a lot of too much attention off of what the football team is trying to do, or whatever team for that matter. And then you're out there gallivanting, doing dumb shit.
Yeah.
Just being an asshole, not being respectful. Just do your job and get paid. Like you have a gift. You went to college. You probably didn't even get a degree, because that's just how I feel on all these. I've already mentioned this before. College players go to these schools and they don't get degrees. They go to the NFL, whatever. But anyway, it's a gift to be that talented, and to take it for granted and be a dick. And that's not cool. And then, you know what? Oh no, boo-hoo, you got busted down to the 5th round. Like, I hope you ride the bench, and then I hope you learn from a better quarterback maybe the right thing to do, like when it comes to playing in the NFL, because daddy's not always going to be there.
And also, nobody really gave half of a shit, honestly, about any of the other players that fell in the draft. I think one of the last times we had a sports podcast, Justin, I brought up this potential rumored $6 million NIL package that allegedly Notre Dame had prepared for Quinn Ewers.
Oh, right.
The quarterback for Texas.
Oh, he got taken, I think.
He did, in the 7th damn round by the Miami Dolphins. No one seems to be crying about that. Quinn Ewers was like essentially the quarterback who, like, you could say there's a whole bunch of players involved because football is obviously a team sport, but they had gone to the college football playoff twice with Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers effectively is the quarterback that Texas Longhorn fans would think of. They were like, all right, he helped us come back as a program. Nobody cares. Nobody brought that up.
I think of Quinn. What is it? Quinn Hughes.
Quinn Ewers.
I think of him that he's finally gone, and now the Manning brother can finally play.
Oh yeah. Arch Manning can now play.
That's the only thing I think about that, and maybe he'll get a shot when Tua gets another concussion.
Yeah. Well,
if he even plays for the Dolphins.
We'll talk about that at a later time because we're ragging on ESPN right now. Because you also brought something else up that's important as to why ESPN is trash. Like we've talked about, like it goes all in on the politics. Like even for like a WNBA game, they had like a moment of silence for a political thing that was going on at the time. I don't know if you remember this. Rush Limbaugh was on NFL Countdown.
No,
but they had Rush Limbaugh on NFL Countdown. What else is that? And then that became a political thing too because he said something about Donovan McNabb. So, you know, it has gone a certain direction now, but also at the same time now it's created this marketplace for a while. Like, all right, if you want to say that ESPN is a left-wing sports broadcasting network, well, now there's right-wing ones. Now there's just like, why do I need a winged sports network
that's insane.
Platform?
Honestly, I didn't even know that was a thing because, I mean, I don't think there's enough time in 23 minutes for them to have that. And that's the only time I really watch it.
Well, it's mostly like online, but there are shows. So you'll see that stuff on like YouTube and stuff like that. But it's like back when ESPN was great, there was no real politics to it. They just talked about the game. And now it's like, well, now we got to put this little spin on it, whether it's left wing or right wing, whether it's racist or not racist. Like, what was the score? What the hell happened?
Sports.
Exactly.
Sports.
And so jumping from that, though, you brought up how they only talk about like the hot team or the it team. Mm-hmm. And so if you're paying attention to basketball, 99% of the time, the only thing you're really going to be hearing about is LeBron James.
I know he played he's 21 seasons, 22. He's got Brony there.
Yeah. I like how you called him Brony.
I know so much. He's got the Luka Doncic on his team now because SportsCenter is all about the Lakers. That's it. Or the hot team. I know all about Jalen from the Knicks. Let's see who else. But you don't hear about Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, Halliburton.
He's really good, but there's really not much about him on SportsCenter.
And they do the same thing for like the NFL. So you'll only be hearing about, well, when they had Aaron Rodgers, you'll be hearing plenty about the Jets. You'll hear about the Cowboys, Steelers, Patriots back when they had Tom Brady. Kansas City definitely now. Just like won't shut up about Kansas City. Philadelphia now because they've won, the Super Bowl, and talk about Jalen Hurts and all that stuff. But circling back to LeBron, so we had a discussion last time we recorded the podcast about Alex Ovechkin potentially breaking Wayne Gretzky's record, which he has since done.
Yes, sir.
They had a discussion about Ovechkin breaking Gretzky's record on ESPN. They brought PK Subban on, and they turned it all about LeBron James.
Oh, the greatest?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, well, who's like the better athlete? It's like, well, why can't you just talk about how like unprecedented breaking this record is in hockey? Instead, it's like, no, let's make it about LeBron. Like, you can't give hockey any attention? This is like a generation, not even a generational thing.
You know, it would have been better if he would have said, like, do you think LeBron James could skate on ice?
Do you think LeBron James could not flop for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
But like that's kind of like in and of itself, like, oh, instead of talking about this huge thing that's happened in sports, like nobody
Monumental.
We had this conversation. Did you ever think that this could possibly happen?
Never.
And I straight up said no. I don't think that could happen. Let's make it about LeBron. Let's make it about LeBron.
It's always about LeBron. Bro.
That is the heart of why it's such a pain in the ass to pay attention, to like watch sports, pay attention to sports using ESPN as the vessel, because everything has to get filtered through to like, oh, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes for 45 minutes.
ESPN is the catalyst to bullshit. That's really what it comes down to.
It is. They have just brought on all of these guys. Like,
wait, I'm sorry. I have something written down here that I wanted to say. Disney safe big market bullshit.
I mean, that is fair. They've definitely leaned into just trying to make it like controversial. Like definitely tried to lean into like, well, if I say this, I will draw attention. And that's not what it used to be.
Ratings. We want as fans of sports, we want the scores, we want the highlights. I want to see the guy for the Minnesota Twins like hitting that home run or getting a weird little league home run that game for some weird reason.
Yeah,
I want to see that.
I want to see what happened because I can't watch every single game.
The Kansas City Royals had a triple play. Wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Because they didn't show it.
Because instead they need to lecture you about their beliefs. And you're like, I'm sorry, did I turn on MSNBC? No, I turned on ESPN. Please, for the love of God, just talk about the game. Like, I don't like this. I know I'm like frustrated now because this was something like when I was a kid, I was always super into sports. And I imagine you as well, because we're doing a podcast about sports. I have written articles about sports. I have a master's in sports journalism. I kind of took it seriously. And ESPN, like how like on the flagship
and
podcast,
I just watched it seriously.
Like how I viewed the New York Times in journalism, I viewed ESPN for sports media. I was like, if I can make it there, it's sort of like hitting the pinnacle. Like my foot is in the door. I'm this close now to being on SportsCenter. By the time I would have reached SportsCenter, it would have been like the oasis would have turned into a desert. Like nothing.
You would have been hearing properly caffeinated like every other day.
Oh my God. I would have just been so angry the entire time because I had to do like SportsCenter like shows for my degree.
You would have moved to Connecticut, got a house, and they would have hated it.
I would not have been able to afford a house in Connecticut. Sports media, I don't know if you know this. If you are not one of these like Stephen A. Smith, and I haven't even bitched about Mina Kimes yet. Like, but have I not bitched about Mina Kimes?
I don't think so.
But, well, she should have been brought up in the women's segment. But when they pay these people that type, it's just for like opinion and not like really any sort of reporting or anything like that. It's just like, oh well, I've got this take because they're just paying you to get viewers in because that raises revenue because it gets ad dollars and all that stuff. But if I'm just there cutting highlights, good luck. Good luck affording a home in frickin' Connecticut. It's expensive. It's more expensive than it is in New Jersey.
I just remembered something that I wanted to say, and I should have said this earlier. There is one good ESPN, woman's ESPN analyst on SportsCenter. It's Linda Cohn. She is
she still there?
She's still there. She's been there forever. She was great. She still is great. She's getting a little older, but she's still great. She used to play hockey. She used to be a goalie, and I know she loves the fucking Mets.
All right, so you're a little biased. And I'm not trying to dunk on all of them. Sam Ponder, before they freaking threw her out the door, she was good. I didn't really like how they kind of like kicked out Chris Berman to push her in. But I was like, every time Sam Ponder was on, it wasn't like, I'm like, oh my God, my eardrums.
I don't think I knew who that was.
Sam Ponder?
Yeah.
So she was I don't know if she was ever a sideline reporter, which is a whole nother thing we can bitch about, but that's like sports media bitching about that in toto. It's not just ESPN. But she was also on College Game Day. She would like break in and do like a little it's kind of sideline reporter-ish, but like she would just talk about something. She wasn't there to like be an analyst or anything. She was like reporting on like what's going on over here in Alabama or Ohio State or whatever. And then,
did you know that?
yeah, something like that. And then she eventually took over for Chris Berman for NFL Countdown.
Okay.
Because they kind of like kicked out Chris Berman, and then they had to bring him back because nobody was really watching Countdown. So they didn't bring him back for that show because then you would be taking a job away from a woman and giving it to an old man. So they just had Chris Berman and Tom Jackson do the good old-fashioned NFL primetime show on ESPN Plus.
I just realized that I remember there's another announcer doing a football show. Mm-hmm. I think his name's Boogie.
Or
Booger?
Booger McFarland.
Yeah.
He's
that's
not,
right, Booger.
He's not that bad.
No, he's not. He's not bad.
Yeah.
But his name is weird. And also, have you ever seen his finger, dude? His finger is so broken that it is like so broken. It goes that way. Like it is awfully broken.
I know we have trashed a few people that are attached.
No, he's
for
good,
the most
though.
part. There are good people on
Yeah,
ESPN.
absolutely.
Still. Like I've actually learned to really enjoy Joe Tessitore. Like he's. Like when he went to go do Monday Night Raw for whatever fucking reason, I was like not familiar with like every time I heard him, I was like I thought he was a different commentator. I'm like, is that Sean McDonough? Oh no, that's a completely different man. But like I've listened to him call college football games. I've listened to him call Monday Night Raw. He's really good. He's really good at what he does. Who else do we got in terms of Chris Fowler and Kurt Herbstreit is a great combo for college football. Like I don't know if they're the best. I would kind of put I think his name is not Mark Jones. The Fox duo, Joel Klatt and God, he looks like Gus Fring from Breaking Bad. I'm blanking on so many names, my friend.
I couldn't help you with that.
But the top team on Fox for college football is really good. And then you also have the CBS. Yeah, they're still attached to CBS. Gary Danielson and not Chris. God, I'm blanking on so many names.
There's a guy on Apple that does a really good, like whenever the Mets are on like Apple TV, which I hate it when it is, but there is one guy on there, I don't remember his name, but he's really good. He's like the only other person I'm okay with listening to.
Yeah.
Like, I think, is it, I don't want to mess it up. But yeah, there's him. But Fox though?
Yeah.
Kevin Burkhardt, no thanks. No thanks.
It was Brad Nessler who's
you go.
attached to CBS. Yeah, they're a good duo. I know some people don't like Gary Danielson, but I'm like, I don't know.
So it's not just ESPN that sucks, but there's a lot of people that suck. But there's also some good people out there in ESPN too. But
but the problem is there's such they're so hard to find because for every Chris Fowler and Kurt Herbstreit, for every Reese Davis was another name that I blanked on. He was the one who set Mel Kiper straight to the degree that Mel Kiper was just losing his absolute his mind over the freaking Shedeur Sanders thing.
There's 4 Randy Scotts.
There's a Mel Kiper. There's a Randy Scott. There's a Scott Van Pelt that I couldn't give two.
Oh, I don't hate Scott Van Pelt. I never understood why his like weird cousin is like the other announcer guy in the background.
There's a John Butchergrass. There's a freaking Kevin Weeks. There's a Stephen A. Smith and a Mina Kimes. There's all of these guys. There's Shannon Sharp.
Oh, I can't talk.
And we can't talk about him because actually we probably would have time, but like he can't talk because of some chicanery. That was and for the most part, like Shannon Sharp at least played the game. So when he comes off as an idiot,
he was great too.
He was a great tight end. So at least it's like, all right, you kind of earn the right to talk
and
about
his brother was Sterling Sharp.
Sterling Sharp, yeah.
Which you never hear about.
He was on ESPN. He used to be on the old school NFL Countdown show, I believe. He was one of the commentators.
What are your thoughts on Joey Galloway? Is he good?
Joey Galloway?
I don't know. I feel like he was an awesome wide receiver, but like I don't know, is he a good commentator? Because I'm not the biggest college game day guy. Not that guy.
He's if I'm remembering him properly, it's kind of like hit or miss. Because it's just like so many of those guys just say things to try and get like attention. Like even like Who the hell did that?
What's that one quarterback? Something Palmer or Carson or something.
Carson Palmer?
No, not the Bengals old quarterback. I don't think. This guy was played football for not very long, but he was like a college great. And I know he's on like game day or something. I don't. He's got like the hair that's combed over. He's like jacked.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of him. But it doesn't matter.
Well, it's also like I'm trying to think of the lineup because I know Lee Corso is retiring, and Lee Corso made College Game Day. He made that, like just putting that freaking the mascot.
Oh, that's the guy who's retiring, right?
Yeah,
yeah. That's all. That's the face I only remember like for College Game Day.
Yeah,
they go to a different town or a different city, and he'd be the one like dancing and whatever the hell he was doing. Like
he would put like the Oregon Duck head on, or like the Buckeye.
Did he play football, or was he just in and out? Like
he had a lot. Like he was also a coach. Like
okay.
I know he.
I knew nothing about him.
He was like he coached. I think he was assistant coach for Navy, but like he had a very long resume in terms of coaching. I can't remember specifically everywhere that he went because of, again, long list. But yeah, he definitely coached. Kurt Herbstreit played for Ohio State, so he'll never not get accused of being biased towards Ohio State.
He's the announcer now for like what, Monday Night Football or something?
Thursday night on Prime.
Night, yeah, okay.
Which actually, you know what?
With Al
Michaels.
Yeah.
Al Michaels was like 80 years old and he's still really good as
He really is. Like, yeah.
So yeah, I know we've dunked on ESPN a whole lot.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. They deserve, because they suck. ESPN sucks.
And then also, if you're paying for cable, it kind of sucks when you want to watch the show that sucks. If you want sports, like, tell me another one. I'd like to watch a better one.
Yeah,
because I want to.
Because we're pretty much locked in. Like, if you want to watch a hockey game, you're gonna probably have to watch ESPN because they have access to this, that, and the other game. Like now, in our region, you can watch like the Flyers, Rangers, Devils, Islanders, pretty much without any kind of harm, other than
there is apps for that.
There's apps.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to watch, like they have games on ABC, they have games on ESPN, they have games on like ESPN2 and all that stuff. The playoffs become at one point, exclusive to ESPN. So you have to deal with ESPN and TNT to watch the NHL playoffs. If you're a college football fan, you have no choice. You have to have ESPN because they dominate, like the SEC, the Big Ten. They have contracts with every single conference practically. So you have to use them. NBA, if you're an NBA fan, you really don't have a choice. You have to go through ESPN. So it's just this. I'm a college hockey fan. Nobody gives a shit about college hockey. I still have to go through ESPN because they have the tournament. So it's like you have no choice but to deal with them, and then they continuously shovel out this shit product.
Yeah.
And with a little bit of a sprinkle of like of good quality football conversation, and one guy that really knows what his shit about hockey.
A little hope, a little sugar, a little love.
Yeah. But the shit sandwich that has some sprinkles on it, or some mayo, or because you don't put sprinkles on a sandwich, doesn't taste very good.
I want to know. I have a question. It's a little unrelated. The announcer for the Rangers, Rosen.
Yeah, Sam Rosen.
Sam Rosen. So Sam Rosen retired.
Yeah.
And now it's Albert.
Yeah, I believe it's Kenny Albert.
Yeah. I'm curious what the Rangers fans think of that.
I don't know. I have a family of Rangers fans. I should probably ask them. But
I'm just curious.
But for the most part, Kenny Albert's pretty good at what he does too.
Well, Rosen, what was his first name? Sorry,
Sam Rosen.
Sam Rosen's was doing it for like ever, right?
Yeah. He had been doing that ever since I can remember. Like I was like a little kid, and then the Rangers won the Cup in '94, and I can remember his voice. I told the story on the Flagship podcast of how I like met him at the airport because I was in Nashville and he had covered the Rangers Nashville game. I went to that game with my brother, and then as I'm flying back, I see him. Like I see this man, and it's just like, is that Sam Rosen, or am I confusing him for just somebody else? And I'm like, if I hear his voice, I'll know exactly it's him. I think at one point, we were getting on the plane.
Like, come on, Sam, say something.
Well, no, I was like, I walked right onto the plane, and he was sitting in first class, obviously, and I looked right at him like, that's Sam Rosen. And then I went,
wait, Dan does this.
No, because he was sitting down.
I know. That's our joke.
Yeah. And then what happened was like he's going to get his bag, but it hasn't reached the carousel yet. But my bag comes out first, and it's like right by him, so I grab it, and then like I probably tell it he's pissed
Here you
off.
go, Mr. Rosen.
No, I just looked at him, he looked at me, and I just nodded and I walked away because it's just like I'm not bothering him. But what am I gonna say? Like, oh hey, I've never been a Rangers fan, but I've heard so many Rangers games because I have a brother that's a big Rangers fan. I have aunts, uncles. My father is a Rangers fan, so. Like, what am I going to say to you? You're the voice of my childhood.
I appreciate what you do. I don't know. It's hard when you get starstruck in any kind of way. I mean, I'm not a Rangers fan, but like you can identify a classy person who does their job well, and you appreciate what they do.
Yeah.
And so I get it. But it is hard to talk to somebody when it comes to just anything like that, like little chit chat. But a head nod though, that guy's probably like.
No, it's also too like I've been in the Flyers locker room before. I talked to Dave Hackstall when he was the coach of the team. I talked to Jake Voracek when he was still on the team, and I was kind of like I had to kind of get away from that idea because I was just like, no, I'm here to do a job. I'm here to like ask questions and stuff like that. And I noticed I can still remember. I can't remember what I asked Jake Voracek. I was probably just asking him about his chemistry and his line with Claude Giroux and all that stuff. But don't quote me on that. I remember specifically what I asked Dave Hackstall. I asked him about having, because they had Pierre-Edouard Bellemare on that team still, and he used him specifically to shadow Alexander Barkov in the game prior, and he did a really good job. So I was asking him about, I was like, well, like, what was your, he did a really good job last night, shadowing Alexander Barkov. Is that something that you're going to continue doing against the league's top teams or something like that? And he just kind of like complimented Alexander Barkov, and I could feel everybody's eyes on me. I could feel everyone just staring at me like, why the fuck are you asking a question? Kind of thing. I was just like,
who are you?
Yeah, who are you? And I'm like, it was a pretty crucial part of the game. They beat the Panthers, and Barkov was pretty much shut down. I know we're not allowed to compliment Bellemare because apparently because he can't score goals, he's useless. But he did a really good job shutting down one of the league's best players. It's an interesting story. It's an interesting part of the dynamic of that team. Yeah. So I don't know what to tell you. All right. I think we've run a little long on this one in terms of just sports. Of it all just being about ESPN too. Maybe we'll have to come back and do a different one and talk about a little bit more different things instead of just railing on ESPN. But until then, if you enjoyed this nonsensical ramblings of sports talk and ESPN just absolutely being crap, you know what? If you think ESPN is crap too, give us a like, leave a comment, and share your story of why you think ESPN is trash. And make sure that if you have a whole bunch of friends that think ESPN is trash, share this video with them as well. So for Justin, I'm Dan, and we'll see you next time on Loud and Drunk Sports.